Welcome to Andrew White. Andrew, we've been in difficult times, haven't we, with one thing and another recently?
Well, certainly from our point of view, or my point of view, it's been very difficult. What with American bombardments and Iran and Israel. And today things look more positive. It looks as if there is some kind of a ceasefire. We
Hmm.
don't know how long it will last and what will be achieved, but we pray and we hope it will continue.
Yes, never-ending story springs to mind. But genuinely, we got some very good news at the moment. Tell us about that.
We have got some very good news. So much of my life and ministry has been working in the Islamic world and working with some of the top Islamic leaders from around the world, from people as senior as Grand Imam of the Al Azhar in Cairo, which is the equivalent to the Pope of the Muslim world, through to princes from Saudi Arabia and other communities. But one of the things which has been really interesting is that so many of these Islamic big leaders have been coming to the Christian faith. How and why? They all said, well, there are 7 cases I know of, and usually when people have come to faith, they've been visited by what they call the man in white. You know, this figure of Jesus who has said, "Come and follow me." But in the recent stories, there have been some people who've had a divine vision or encounter, but others who have just got really worried about the continuing violence demonstrated by their own faith community, that they have said, we want to find God who we can relate to. We pray 5 times a day. We as Shia Muslims all have the scar on our head from laying on the stone we put our head on each time we pray. But they have said they have been trying to communicate with God in a real way. And often they were saying, why is it the Christians say that God talks to them and they talk to him? And several people, senior people, right up to Saudi princes, have said they have got so disillusioned with their understanding of Islam that they have sought to find out how they can relate to God in a personal way. And a lot of these people have then gone on to discover that even in their extreme Islamic states in the Gulf, there are people who were Muslims who have come to a living faith in Isa, Isa Christos, in Jesus Christ. And I know of several people who have moved into having a real relationship with the living God. And we have even had a few of them who have secretly been baptized in the river or the sea, such as the Red Sea. And so there have been several very encouraging stories of faith in action. And it just shows that even without being overtly evangelistic, and I have seriously not been able to be evangelistic in all my work in Iraq, I never tried to convert one Muslim. And yet, after my 19 years there, I can honestly say that I had over 50 Muslims come to faith because they had been so influenced by our ministry and the way that we cared and loved for them and fed them and their community, that they sought to find out about our faith. And there are now several people meeting in these secret gatherings of former Muslims who have come to the Christian faith. And 7 people have been baptized in the recent weeks. And so much of this happened over this period when I've not been able to get out and visit my own people. And I've spent more and more time online talking with my Islamic friends. And so it's been a time of great encouragement. What do you say, Rodney?
Well, it is encouraging. I've heard stories about the white-dressed man, and they've not been proselytized at all. They've not heard the gospel being preached at them. They just encounter Christ because of other people's prayer.
And when they see this man in white, they immediately know it's Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus the Nazarene.
What happens to them, Andrew? Do they share their faith? It's dangerous, isn't it?
Very dangerous. What happens is that several have joined these underground churches or meeting groups, but all of them do eventually like to escape. And most of them can get to Turkey at some point. And then from Turkey, they do things like even come to England, where there are groups of underground faithful Muslim believers who meet very secretly.
Yes, it's quite different to our evangelical teaching, I suppose, where you're supposed to tell your friends and neighbors and become an evangelist yourself. It would not be very wise in these circumstances, though.
But what you do see is that when people do come to a living faith, they will share what they have found with those they feel they can trust. And in a fascinating way, several of these people, well, 3 of them, have found that as they had an experience of Isa, of Jesus, so other people in their family did at the same time, particularly amongst the children and young people.
Fascinating. It's something we should be praying for continually. And we often say, golly, there's no solution to this problem. It will always go on. But maybe this is a solution, especially from people in power that have been converted in the Christian sense to the truth, and they can influence people at high levels.
Well, I think it is very significant. And I can only say that our prayers, the prayers of people like you and me and others who are watching, who have been praying that Muslims would convert for many years, we are now beginning to see the fruit of our meditation.
So prayers for that, but also for protection, Andrew.
Protection of those who move over and protection of their families and all those who are connected with them.
Well, it's most encouraging. Thank you for sharing with that. And we certainly pray for good outcomes along that time, because we can't get to people physically. You can't get to people physically, but through various means, whether it be a Zoom meeting.
As I have done in the past, so much of my life has been spent with my Islamic friends. Now, I want to tell you of another issue I'm working on, which is very exciting. I don't know if I told you that I had a friend from Hollywood called Esther. She's not a Hollywood star. She just lives there, but has been very much called to minister to the Kurdish communities in Portsmouth, where for some reason there are many Kurdish communities. And she has been writing a book about the Magi, the kings who visited Jesus. And she feels that these kings, who are very likely to have been Medes, could well have been Kurds. And so we have been doing some research into the relationship between the Kurds, the Medes, and the other people are the Zoroastrians. This is one of the oldest faith traditions in the world, older than Christianity or Judaism or Islam. But these are the people who are very much based in Persia, and yet they have always had a great admiration of the stars and things mystical. And it could well be that the wise men from this strange Eastern community were in fact connected with the Zoroastrian Kurds or Medes. And we have been looking at this. I'm a collector of a huge number of crosses, but also icons. But I have 4 icons which are not Christian icons. They're Persian ones of the Medes. And I got these out when she was with me yesterday. And we got somebody to translate what it said around these Mede and Persian icons, and they're all in gold leaf. And they talk about seeing the star and finding the way. They say nothing about the Christ, but it shows that they are the Medes looking at the stars. And so it links once again to the people who probably went to find Jesus. They didn't go to Bethlehem. They didn't go to the manger like the pictures show. We know they went and found him in the land which was holy to the Jews.
Golly, we can learn a lot from history, can't we? And some good things, some bad things. Just finally, Andrew, before we leave you, we've got to look at the war in the Middle East. And this very day, Donald Trump, the president of the US, has told Netanyahu, president of Israel, just calm down and pull back at the moment.
And lay off your attacks on the people in Lebanon, especially, because as long as that happens, it does appear that the recent Trump peace move between the Iranians and the others in the Middle East could well be on track.
We do hope so. Netanyahu has been accused on a number of occasions of being hawkish, maybe showing a lack of faith, not seeing the whole picture. It's very difficult. People have one view, people have an opposite view about him. But who else have Israel got if he relinquishes his position?
We pray and hope, and I really believe there could be some big hope here.